in factoring, things that ended up having a degree of 2 or an exponent of 2. If you notice, these here that we're looking at today have exponents of 3. Okay, so today we're going to be learning how to factor our cubic functions. If you have something that looks like this, some u plus v cubed, okay, u and v could be any number or variable. So if we have what we would call a sum of cubes here, we have a formula that we can use for these types. So if it has a plus in the middle, our formula will be u plus v in the first parenthesis times u squared minus u times v plus v squared. And remember, u and v are just variables that could be representing anything. It could be a and b, it could be a x, and maybe the number here is 27, right? It doesn't always have to be letters, and it could be any letters. So it doesn't always have to be u and v. You could use any variables there, okay? If we have a minus in between them, we have a very similar formula. The only difference is the signs. So for this one, our first parenthesis would be u minus v. And then in our second parenthesis, we would have u squared plus uv plus v squared. So if you have a plus in between, our signs are plus, minus, plus. If you have a minus in between, our signs are minus, plus, plus. Okay, the rest of the formula stays the same. All right, so now that we have these formulas, let's try and use them on a couple of examples here. Okay, so I'm looking at number 1. My first term here is x to the third power, so that looks just like this one, right? U to the third power. But here there's 8, and the 8 is not raised to the third power. So if I want to figure out how to rewrite this so that I can use this formula, I've got to turn 8 into something to the third power. Okay, so basically I need to figure out what times itself 3 times is equivalent to 8. 2, right? 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. So I could rewrite 8 as 2 cubed. Because 8 is equivalent to 2 cubed. And you can check that in your calculator. If you type in 2 to the third power, it would give you 8. So this is just rewriting the 8. That's all we've done. Still is equivalent. We just rewrote it so that it would match our formula. Because our formula says both of the things here have to have a 3 as an exponent. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to identify what the u and the v are. So u is supposed to be the first term. What's our first term? X. So our u is x. And v is supposed to be the second term. What's our v? Two. Just 2. All right. X is in the same spot as u, and 2 is in the same spot as v. Okay? So now, because this one had a plus sign in it, that means we're going to use the top formula, right? Anywhere there's a u, I'm going to replace it with x. Anywhere there's a v, I'm going to replace it with 2.
How did you get the 2 again?
Because 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. So 2 cubed is the same thing as 8. We just rewrote it. Okay? All right, so using this formula, we're supposed to first put u plus v. Well, what was our u? X. Plus, what was our v?
2.
2. Very good. Okay, and then we have another parenthesis where we're going to put u squared. Again, what was our u? X. So I'm going to have x squared minus So I'm going to put down my minus. U times V. So for us, that would be x times 2. Well, what is x times 2? Just 2x, okay? Alright, and then last, after that, I'm supposed to have plus V squared. And what was our V?
2 squared.
2 squared. Okay. Alright, so now I'm just going to look back through it, see if there's anything in here I could actually simplify. Well, I can't add those two things together because they're not like terms, right? I can't actually square x because it's not a real number. We already multiplied here. Can I square 2?
Yes.
Yes, it would become 4. Okay, so really I would have x plus 2 times x squared minus 2x plus 4. Okay. So the hardest part here is just going to be rewriting your number, and then you just plug it into the formulas. Okay? All right. Number 2. Okay? Right now, we have x being raised to the third power, but is the 27 raised to the third power? No. So I need to fix the 27, because according to our formulas, everything has to be raised to the third power. So now I'm asking myself, what could multiply times itself 3 times to give me 27? 3. Also, guys, if you're having trouble coming up with this, everybody on your calculator right now, press the button that says Math. Okay? And when that list comes up, what do we see for number 4? A square root with a 3, right? That's called a cubed root. So, if you're trying to figure out what you can rewrite your number as, click number 4 and type 27 underneath that root that it gives you and press enter. What does it give you? 3. So that's how you figure out what number it is, okay? So, I'm going to mark this out and I'm going to rewrite it as 3. 3 is going to be raised, and the x already was raised. So I'm going to rewrite it as 3x to the third. Now it's all raised to the third. Okay? Alright, and then I got to fix my 1. What multiplies times itself 3 times to give me 1?
1.
1. So I'm just going to turn this into 1 cubed. Alright, so again, I just need to identify which one is u and which one is v. U is always the one that's first. What did we have first?
3x.
3x, very good. And v is always the one that was second. What did we have second? Well, just the 1. We're not going to worry about our signs right now. Okay? All right, so in between these two things, did we have a plus or a minus? A minus. So which one of the formulas are we going to want to use? Second one. So this one, we're going to use this formula right here. Okay? All right, and that formula says we should have u minus v in the first parenthesis. Well, what's our u? 3x. Minus v. What's our v? Very good. Okay. And then in my second parenthesis, I'm going to have u squared. Okay? So 3x squared. But remember, that means the whole thing is squared. So I want you to put an extra set of parentheses around the 3x and put the square outside. Okay? Plus, formula says next, u times v. Well, what is u times v going to be for us?
3x.
Right, 3x times 1 is just 3x. Very good. And then at the end, we're supposed to have plus v squared. 1 squared. All right, so then we just look through and see if there's anything we can simplify. Nothing else we can do in that first parenthesis, right? So we're going to bring it down as it is. 3x minus 1. Okay, my first thing in here is 3x all squared. Well, I can actually square the 3, right? What is 3 squared? 9. And x raised to the second power is just x squared. So I can rewrite that as 9x squared. So I can get rid of that parenthesis there. Okay, and then next is just 3x. Nothing we can do there. And then I have 1 squared. Well, what is 1 squared? Very good. And now we've simplified it. So there is my answer. at our next example, number 3. Okay, the x is being cubed, but is the 3 being cubed?
No.
But is there anything that multiplies times itself 3 times to give me 3? No. So I'm not going to be able to rewrite it. So what we're going to do is look for, what do we always look for first when factoring? A GCF. Okay? So we know 3 will go into itself. Will 3 go into 192?
Yes.
How many times? 64. Okay, so I'm going to take out 3 as a GCF, which would leave us with x cubed plus, you guys said it becomes 64. Alright, so now I only have to worry about what's in my parentheses to take the cube root of, right? Or to figure out how to use it in my formula. So x is raised to the 3rd power, it's good, but is 64 raised to the 3rd power? No. So I'm going to need to fix the 64. So remember, in our calculator, we press math, number 4, and then type 64 in there. Right, so I'm going to be able to mark that 64 out and turn it into 4 to the 3rd power. Okay, guys, put our phones up till we're done with the lesson, please. All right, so now we just have to identify our u and our v. Well, u is always the thing written down first. What did we have first? X. And v is always the second thing, which for us is just 4, right? Just the number. Okay. All right, so now we're just going to plug it into our formula. Did it have a plus or a minus in the middle? So which formula do we want to use? The first one. Very good. Okay, we did have a GCF, so we're going to bring out our GCF of 3 and put that down in front. Okay, our first formula says we should have u plus v. What's that going to be for us?
X plus 1.
Very good. And then in the next parenthesis, we should have u squared. Well, what is u squared for us? X squared. All right. Then it says we should have a minus u times v. Well, what is u times v for us? 4x. Very good. And then it says we should have plus v squared. What's v squared for us? 4 squared. And what is 4 squared? 16. Very good. So the only thing we would have had to simplify here would have been if we wrote it as 4 squared, but we already squared it. So nothing to simplify. All right. And let's look at number 4. Okay, on number 4, is the first term okay as it is? Yeah. Okay, but we got to fix the 125. So remember, math 4 in our calculator. We can rewrite it as 5 to the 3rd power. All right, so what is my u? X. And what is my v? 5. Okay, and do we have a plus or a minus in the middle? Plus, so we're going to use that top formula again. Okay, so first parenthesis, u plus v. What's that for us? Very good. And then we have another parenthesis that starts out with u squared. What's our u squared? Very good. Minus u times v, which for us would be, very good, plus v squared, which would be 25. Very good. Okay. Number 5. Anything we need to fix for our first term? The 8. Got to fix the 8. So what could we turn 8 into? Right. So I'm going to mark this out. And remember, that means I'm going to put 2x in parentheses because I want the whole thing to be raised to the 3rd. Okay. And what can we turn 1 into? 1 cubed. Very good. All right. So what is our u? 2x. Very good. And what is our v? Very good. This one has a minus in between, so we're going to want to use the bottom formula. Okay? So, in that formula, we're supposed to have u minus v. What's that going to be for us? Very good. Times u squared. What's that going to be for us? Right. Because when I square 2x, remember that means to square the 2, which like he said is going to become 4. And I square the x, so x squared. So it becomes 4x squared when we square it. Okay? Plus u times v. What's 2x times 1? 2x. And then plus v squared, which would just be
1.
very good. Alright, on number 6, we can see the 3 is not being raised to the third, but 3 doesn't have a cube root. Okay? So what should we probably be looking for here? A GCF. Do we have one? Yes. Okay, so if I take out 3, what are we going to be left with? X to the third, minus. Very good. Okay, so now my x is good. What can I fix the 8 into? 2 cubed. Turn this into 2 cubed. So then what is my u? X, very good. And what's my v? Very good. Okay, and then remember, because we had that GCF of 3, we're going to bring that down out in front. And which formula are we going to use this time? The bottom one, So u minus v would be, very good. And then the next parenthesis, we got u squared, which would be, please put your phone up. And then we would have plus u times v, which would be 2x, plus v squared, which would be, very good. Alright, just a couple more. Okay, on number 8. We don't have a GCF, right? So we can't take 64 out of the other one. So that means we got to fix the 64, right? What can I turn the 64x into? Very good. So I mark this out, and I have 4x in parentheses raised to the third. And is the y good as it is? Yeah. Okay, so what is our u? Very good. And what is our v? Y. Nice. Okay, which formula are we going to use? Top one. Good. So, in that first parenthesis, I should have u plus v, which for us is going to be, nice, times, I'm going to have u squared. So that means I'm going to square this term right here, right? So what is 4 squared? Good. And x raised to the second is just x squared. Okay? Then the formula says we should have minus u times v. So what would 4x times y be? 4xy. And then we should have plus v squared. What's that going to be for us?
2y.
Y squared. There we go. Alright, we just got one more. So what should we do on number 9? GCF, very good. So what is my GCF? So if I take out 2, what are we going to be left with?
X cubed minus 8.
Nice.
Wait.
And then what should we do? Yes, turn this into 2 cubed, very good. So then our u is, and our v is nice. Okay, so what am I going to bring down out in front? Our GCF, right? Break down that 2. Good. Okay, and this one's a minus, so we're using the bottom formula. So I'm going to have what in my parentheses? X minus 2. Good. In the next parenthesis, what am I going to have?
Squared.
X squared. Very good. Then we'll have plus 2x, 2 times x, nice, plus, very good, 2 squared is 4. All right. So like I said, the most challenging part is getting it rewritten here, and then all you have to do is identify u and v and plug it into the formula. Okay? All right.